The film starts with Kate, who is getting ready to start her observation of the space. She's a PhD student, and she's looking at different galaxies, when all of a sudden, she spots a moving object in the sky. She focuses on it and figures out that it's a comet in our solar system. Kate's professor, Dr. Randall, and all her classmates are over the moon at this discovery. Randall is trying to find out the trajectory of the comet, but he sees that something is wrong. The comet is heading towards Earth. So Randall and Kate call the Kennedy Space Center and get in touch with Dr. Ted. Ted is the head of the Space Defense Organization. Randall explains how all the calculations say that the comet will hit the Earth in 6.5 months. Ted is horrified to find out that the comet is around 6 to 10 kilometers wide, and this will potentially eliminate all the living organisms on Earth. So he asks Kate and Randall to meet him at the White House. They both board a military plane that takes them to the White House, where Ted is waiting for them. A 3-star general is also there for the meeting. President Janie is late, and when she finally comes, her son Jason asks everyone to wait as the president is busy. Eventually, the general has to fly to Okinawa on a secret mission, so he leaves. Others are still waiting as the night approaches. That's when Jason tells them that the president won't be available tonight, so they should come back tomorrow. That night, Randall and Kate sit in their rooms thinking about what they've discovered, while talking to their families. The next morning, they all meet with President Janie. Randall is freaking out as he explains how the comet is heading straight towards the Earth. The president and her staff are not so worried about it, so Ted makes it clear that this comet is a planet killer, and it will destroy our planet. Still, Janie is more concerned about the midterm polls, so she wants the team to stay quiet and wait for her to make a decision. The whole situation is bizarre, and when Randall and Kate are going back, Ted tells them to leak the news to some media outlets so that everyone can know what's going on. While all of this is happening, a tech billionaire, Peter, is releasing his new phone. He's a complete sociopath who behaves like a robot. After his presentation, he finds out about the comet, and he's surprised. A week or so later, Randall and Kate are getting ready to publish the whole thing in the New York Herald newspaper. They're also asked to go on a morning show to get their story out. On their way, Kate's boyfriend wants to know what she's working on, because he's also a journalist. However, when she tells him about the comet, the guy just starts freaking out. The morning show is hosted by Jack and Bree, who are talking about politics. Randall and Kate have to wait till the end, because the show is more concerned about a pop star and her breakup. When they finally get to the set, the hosts ask them to explain the story. Kate tries her best to make people understand how bad the situation really is, but the hosts are making fun of everything. So, Kate loses it and starts screaming that we're all going to die. The show instantly has to cut her off because it's embarrassing. Back at the New York Herald office, Randall and Kate are shocked to see how no one is worried about the comet. Instead, most people are making memes about them. Even the editors of the newspaper are backing out because the head of NASA claims that the calculations are wrong. In the next few weeks, Janie is facing a lot of backlash because of her scandalous past. On the other hand, Randall spends his days replying to all the people who don't believe in the comet. That's when the FBI takes Randall, Kate, and Ted into custody and brings them to the White House. There, Jason tells them how they're sorry for not taking any action sooner. However, the president is now going to start a mission to save the planet. This makes the scientists extremely happy and gives them some hope. That very night, the president calls an emergency press conference where she declares her plan to protect the planet from this comet. She even appoints an extremely racist old army general as the commander for this mission. In the next few weeks, Randall becomes the face of the scientific community, and he gets a true celebrity status. He goes back to the same morning show and tells everyone how the mission has a real good chance of success. After this interview, Bree takes him to her room, and they start making out. After a few weeks, the day of the launch arrives, and everyone is waiting in the control room with the president. Randall gets the honor to launch the rockets, and after this, the whole world watches all these rockets fly to space. The launch is a success, and they're all celebrating. Right then, Peter enters a room and asks the president to have a chat with him. Suddenly, for some reason, the rockets start returning towards Earth and the whole world is confused. The security puts Ted, Kate, and Randall into a room, and they're not allowed to go out. After a while, Jason asks Randall to join him for a meeting, where he finds out that Peter's company found $140 trillion worth of precious minerals on the comet. Peter shows them his plan to cut down the comet into smaller chunks that can safely land on Earth. These chunks will then be harvested for the minerals that will pretty much wipe out all the problems of our world. That very evening, Randall shares all of this with Ted and Kate. Kate obviously gets mad at how insensitive the government really is. She tells everyone in the bar about why the mission was aborted. This information leads to riots in the city, and eventually Kate has to be taken into custody. Randall tells her that he can't defy the government because he has to be there to oversee everything. So Kate is taken to a secret location, where the FBI tells her that she cannot talk about the comet or anything relevant to it. Otherwise, she'll go to jail. Kate agrees, and she just goes back home where she's watching TV. And all of a sudden, she sees Randall, who is now working with Peter's company Bash. He's claiming how the comet will provide jobs and remove poverty from our world. Randall is enjoying all this new power with Bree, but he's caught by his wife. She's mad at him for cheating on her, but she still wants him back. But Randall says he can't go back to his ordinary life. So his wife throws all his medicine at him and then just leaves. Some weeks later, Kate is working at a store where some skaters recognize her. A skater named Yule is a fan of Kate for speaking out against the system. He invites her to their skateboard gathering, where Kate tells them the whole situation, and she even ends up kissing Yule. Randall, on the other hand, sees the robots that Peter has designed to destroy the comet. Randall is becoming skeptical of the mission, and this makes Peter mad. Peter considers himself superior to everyone else, and he says that Randall is nobody. Peter even uses an algorithm to predict people's future, and he says that Randall will die alone. Peter is the biggest donor to Janie's campaign, so she stays quiet. After seeing this, Randall goes to the morning show, and this time he gets serious. He says that the president isn't doing enough, and unfortunately, the comet is most likely going to hit the Earth, and everyone is going to die. He's clearly mad, and he's causing a huge scene, so the securities cover his face and put him in a car. A few nights later, Kate is looking at the sky with Yule when they both spot the comet for the first time. Randall is also driving when he sees the comet, and he stops his car and tells everyone to look up and see it for themselves. He calls Kate, and they record a video message telling everyone to look at the sky. Their message goes viral, and people are taking notice. Still, the president is talking to rallies and saying that Randall is wrong and that Bash is going to save the planet. Randall is running a full-on campaign where he's asking other countries to launch their own missions to save the planet. However, he hears the bad news that a joint mission by China, India, and Russia failed to take off. Randall knows that this is the end. On the other hand, during one of Janie's rallies, people look up, and they're shocked to see the comet that has now become really visible. They realize the government has been lying, and they start throwing things on stage. All this madness leads to the day of the launch of Peter's satellites. The whole world is watching, so the roads are empty, and Randall is driving to the grocery store with Kate and Yule. They're listening to some classic rock music, when all of a sudden, Yule proposes to Kate, and she says yes. The drive suddenly becomes way more pleasant. At the grocery store, they buy some great salmon and other things. Randall wants to have a family meal, so he takes them to his house. He apologizes to his wife, and his sons are happy to see him. While Randall and everyone at his house is making a beautiful meal, Peter and the president are watching the launch from the control room. The whole world is hoping for the machine to succeed, but a few rockets crash at the launch pad. The mission is off to a rocky start, but Peter is confident. The robots get to space and are finally attached to the surface of the comet. But even then, there are some malfunctions. After the robots initiate the blast, Janie receives a text telling her that the comet is still intact. The mission is a failure, and the fate of the world is sealed. People start panicking and running away, while Peter and Janie are flying off to a secret escape ship. She calls Randall and tells him that they have 2 vacant seats on their state-of-the-art ship that will take them to a new planet. Randall declines the offer and goes back to the dinner table. Janie, on the other hand, remembers that she left her son Jason behind on accident. So the whole world is going into chaos, watching the comet fall towards the planet. It finally hits the ocean and starts a deadly shockwave. Randall and everyone can feel the shockwaves, but they still keep enjoying their meal and even pray to God for all their blessings. In the end, Randall explains how humans had everything they could ever ask for, and that they tried their best, but it was all for nothing. Right then, the shockwave hits, and the house around them gets destroyed. Everything is flying into space, and amidst all of this, the escape ship is leaving the planet. Back on Earth, Jason is still alive, and he gets out from under some rubble and starts vlogging everything. After many months, the escape ship finally arrives on a new planet, and Peter says that more than half of their 2,000 passengers survived the journey. Most of the people are old rich billionaires. The new planet is beautiful, and Janie sees some birds. She tries to pet one, but the bird bites her head off. The film ends with the birds attacking the survivors.